is a report that was written by my colleague Peter Burt earlier in the year. But much like Molly, so we publish critical information about the UK's nuclear weapons programme, and we were quite concerned about the extent to which jobs was a major argument in the debate over Trident renewal. So we have a particular focus on AWE, the Atomic Weapons Establishment. So this report was written to imagine what might happen if the UK got rid of its nuclear weapons programme, and what might happen at AWE, and how those jobs could be secured. For those of you who aren't familiar with AWE, it's where we make and maintain our nuclear weapons. I won't go too much into the history because it's long, but all of the current Trident warheads were manufactured there. They have an ongoing maintenance program and currently an upgrade program, and so the warheads semi-regularly get transported in between Coalport in Scotland and AWE to be refurbished. AWE has 3 sites. One is Aldermaston, where they mostly do research into new warhead design. Burfield, where they do the assembly and disassembly of the current warheads. And Blackness, which is more in arms control. So they do stuff around proliferation. So they have a seismic facility where they can monitor underground nuclear tests. That's based the arrays in Dumfries and Galloway, and they also have sort of nuclear forensics. They may well have been involved in sort of tracking the Litvinenko murderers because they left a trail of polonium, that kind of thing. But they would also have a sort of give the government specialist advice on arms control issues around proliferation, potential for nuclear terrorism, that kind of thing. So what they're currently up to at the moment is they have what they call the Capability Sustainment Programme. So it's actually a massive building programme, and the idea is that they want to underwrite their capacity to build and design nuclear weapons far into the future. So they're doing an upgrade to the warhead at the moment, the current warhead, and they're sort of laying the foundations for a further upgrade that will be integrated with the Trident replacement that's just been agreed. And we spend $1 billion a year on AWE, and it's not very well scrutinised. Yeah, that's about the replacement warhead. So our report sort of points out, this probably isn't very controversial to everyone here, but this slide here is for, I suppose, people who aren't by temperament anti-Trident, which is to point out that the government's position on nuclear weapons has a paradox in it, in that we are buying them and renewing them, but we do, on paper, have a commitment to get rid of them at some point. And so the point of the report is saying, well, what happens when we do that, when we obviously are going to fulfil our international obligations to disarm? And AWE is a major employer in the area. It's got nearly 5,000 permanent staff, if you include outside contractors and police who work specifically at the site. It's closer to 7,000. And its annual contribution to the local economy is in the region of 475 million. So obviously, and if we got rid of it overnight, that would be a major problem for the region and for the people who live there. Next slide. So this study sort of looks at the possible alternatives for the site if we decided to get rid of Trident or Trident's successor now. One thing that comes out from it is that it wouldn't ever be closed overnight. For a start, the warheads that we have, even if we decided we were never going to use them and we were going to get rid of them as soon as possible, would need several years to dismantle. You could do it in about 4 years if you rushed it, but in reality it would be sort of more in the region of 7 to 10, maybe 11 years. And then after that, you've got quite a lot of facilities that are heavily radioactively contaminated, so buildings where they machine plutonium or high-enriched uranium, and all of those facilities would need to be dismantled, and that's quite a long, slow process. So if you build in dismantling warheads and then decommissioning facilities. You're looking at sort of 2040s or 2050s. And beyond that, the government solution for disposal of, i.e. burying of nuclear waste, is not scheduled to be ready until the 2070s. That's almost certainly a very optimistic timetable. So in reality, there would always be some work and there would need to be some institutional structure for that work through to at least the 2070s. But obviously, if that was to happen, that would not safeguard the jobs that are there. However, what we've looked at in this report, and we're somewhat limited in what we can say in detail because they don't like to tell us very much about what's going on there, but AW is quite an incredible site in many respects. It's got, so particularly Aldermaston has got some really interesting facilities, because since they banned, since they had a moratorium on nuclear testing, we don't test nuclear weapons, but what we do is we simulate the explosion. So to do that, they have a facility with a massive laser that simulates the exact conditions of a nuclear explosion in relatively small scale, and then they have a huge computer array that then runs simulations of that. So they've actually got one of the most advanced computer arrays in Europe there. And our report suggests that actually this could be put to civilian use, and if a far-thinking plan was put in place, it wouldn't be too difficult to reorientate the site and use these highly expensive public facilities we all paid for good. It's fair to say that our report takes quite a top-down approach to this. I think that's a testament to how far ahead of its time the Lucas plan was, that we've been quite cautious. We're talking about sort of quite a government-led, centrally planned transition rather than something that's coming from the workers from the bottom up. And that's really because there's not enough people talking about this, particularly not in the context of AWE, so we wanted to present something that felt unthreatening to people who might be in a position to take decisions and think about this. But we used the examples of Harwell, which is in South Oxfordshire, which is an atomic energy research establishment, and is now a science park with over 200 private science and research organisations working there, and also Porton Down, which is where we had our biological and chemical weapons research establishment. That still has a government agency, the STL, working there, but it also has diversified and it's got a lot of small private organisations working there. So our sort of idea for what could be done at AWE is that you'd split the organisation into three parts. One would deal with these legacy issues, the buildings, the dismantling. One would be the verification work that's currently being done, and then the third would look at creating sort of science park. You'd have a central organisation that would own these facilities like the laser and the supercomputers, but it would also have a remit to spin off areas of work and help create small enterprises in this science park. Oh, I've said that already. Yeah, and just to sort of conclude on that is that what our report is calling for is that people need to be far-sighted about this, as we've heard from the guys in Lucas, that the UK is not going to have nuclear weapons forever. Either we're going to be living in an apocalyptic wasteland, or we're going to get our shit together and get rid of them at some point, and it's important to be far-sighted about that and plan ahead for it. And that requires people who are in power and also the unions and management of AWE to engage with these issues seriously. So we've just written this report to try and get the ball rolling on that.